Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we are going to be doing another episode of the Cycle Starter Quest. The idea is we're going to be taking a character from level 1 and pushing it all the way around to like 300-ish corruption so we can figure out if it's Cycle Starter worthy or not. We're going to figure out the build strengths and weaknesses, and we're going to figure out how easy it is to gear, how hard it is to push. All of these things will be answered probably in this video. This time around, it's going to be Bleed Sabertooth. The idea is we focus on spamming as many flurry attacks as possible to apply as many bleeds as possible on a singular target. Now, the main idea and concept behind solo companion builds like this is to do as much single target damage as possible, mainly in preparation for the new Pinnacle bosses specifically. Now, if you haven't already, I would heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that is currently the best way of supporting content like this on YouTube, and it's also the best way of showing me that you want more content like this in your sub box. So, let's talk about Bleed Sabertooth, shall we? So the entire concept of this build is to just apply as many bleeds as possible. Thankfully, Summon Sabertooth is very good at this by having a lot of bleed chance inside of its tree, while also having a way of multiplying its hits in a very large fashion. So the idea here is we place down a Frenzy Totem. This Frenzy Totem not only refreshes our companion ability, which is Flurry Swipe, so we can press it again after using Frenzy Totem, which then essentially halves our companion abilities cooldown. Instead of being like an 8-second cooldown, it's more like a 4-second cooldown with Frenzy Totem. It also makes it so that flurries, they cast twice. So you don't get like, I think it's only, instead of 3 attacks, you get 6 attacks, which of course equals more bleeds, right? Which is great for us. Then, of course, we utilize something like Swipe. There's a node inside Swipe called Primal Resonance. Not only does this trigger another cast of flurry swipes for us for even more damage on a low cooldown, it also heals our companion to full. If you look at my gear and you look at my stats, you will see that I actually don't have that much minion health scaling, even though I'm around at 300 corruption. That's because these minions are very easy to keep alive, mainly in due to the part of Primal Resonance, as it heals them to full every single time. It's like one of the main ways of keeping solo companions alive, since we don't have any access to things that would give our minions leech in any way, at least this time around. So we need to focus on making sure our minions are topped off, and this is the main way of doing it. Now, the only downside of doing it this way is you do have to remain in combat to keep swiping things, but it's not really a big of a deal because that's how you do most of your single target anyways. But yeah, this build's been great. Like I said, I took it from level 1 all the way to 300 corruption. One of the problems with this build, I will say, is it takes a very long time to get to Summon Sabertooth in the Beastmaster tree. By the time I got to Summon Sabertooth, I was already in like my third in power, like in my third normal monolith. So it's after the campaign, after everything, and you have to play like a dumb totem setup until then. It's fine though, because like totems are pretty good right now for leveling, but it's still annoying that there's not really much you can do until you get to play Summon Sabertooth. Now, in theory, you could play something like Summon Bear, technically. You could play like Wolves up until then, but technically the best way currently to level is as totems, so that's what we did. And then we swapped into Summon Sabertooth. It was a little bit of a problem swapping it to Summon Sabertooth. I would heavily suggest not swapping into it probably to like level 50, 60-ish, and then swapping into it, as that will make the build feel significantly more comfortable than I had a time with. But the idea with these kind of videos is I'm trying to swap as early as I think is possible so I can see when the build starts feeling good enough. And when the build starts feeling good enough this time around is just when you have all 5 skills like unlocked. That's because this build very much is a amalgamation of certain skills to make everything work properly, because without them the build kind of falls flat on its face, mainly just because if you don't have Maelstrom, you don't have the chill, you don't have the healing. If you don't have Warcry, you don't have the pull. If you don't have Frenzy Totem, you don't have the refresh. If you don't have the Summon Sabertooth, it sucks, obviously. If you don't have Swipe, it obviously sucks. So this is one of those builds that requires all 5 skill slots to function properly. So that's when I would suggest swapping instead of how I swap in the leveling process down below. Now, some interesting things about this build. The scaling is out of the like literally like to the moon. I have very bad gear. I could have significantly better gear. I could have way more bleed chance for my Sabertooth. I could have way more bleed duration and bleed penetration for my Sabertooth. I didn't even start to work on investing into a pair of Blood Roosts. If you're in like Merchant's Guild or if you're playing COF for a very long time, what you can do is get a multi LP pair of Blood Roosts. This 24% bleed pen for minions. This is just 24% more damage for Summon Sabertooth. Another interesting option that I found out at the later end of the build is we can utilize an Apogee of the Frozen Light to give our Summon Sabertooth +3 passive, +3 skills. And you're also wondering, Dread, why is your Sabertooth cold, right? It doesn't give you anything, really, to be honest. It does turn our Sabertooth cold for Apogee. Now, Apogee is all it's giving us is +3 to Sabertooth, right? Which sounds bad, but Sabertooth has a very loaded tree. There's a lot of things inside of its tree that are very strong. So if you're playing cold crit Sabertooth, double Apogee would be the way to go. But since we're only playing with bleed Sabertooth, we only need one Apogee. And that's because we have access to the node in the upper right of Summon Sabertooth that gives Flurry Swipes a massive 100% bleed chance. This, on top of giving an Apogee with like minion dot on it, would be the preferred weapon. I think, yeah. And then of course like a +4 on the relic would be great and stuff like that, right? Other than that, I'm surprised at how well the healing this time around carried me. So if you don't know, I'm just running a very small amount of healing effectiveness, healing on my Maelstroms and healing on my Warcry, and that has managed to keep me alive throughout all of this content. Beastmasters have significantly less HP than other characters, but thankfully due to a lot of investment of random pieces of gear on the ground I found, and of course, the passive tree, I've managed to hit over 3k HP, which makes me feel significantly tankier than I would have with a normal Beastmaster build, because normal Beastmaster builds don't even reach like 2k HP at this point. So I'm actually kind of proud of this build, being able to stack that much HP, but that's mainly because we get access to stuff like a shield. That's actually one of the biggest, strongest things about builds like this is you can very easily become tanky just by putting on a shield, which, you know, makes you significantly tankier than if you did not have a shield. Now, like I said, build was great, really good boss killer. Its clear is less good than the Summon Scorpion, but I think the scaling will scale significantly higher than Summon Scorpion in theory. You just gotta like literally like put it all onto gear. Like you can get like a doublet of Ono's Toll with minion dot, like minion like bleed duration with minion bleed chance, right? That would all be amazing. And then you can get a helmet with the same stuff. You can get the Blood Roost, like I said. You can get the Apogee with the LP. You could get so many other things that I don't have access to in this footage that like it would push this thing to the extreme. Now, let's go in game and talk about the build more in detail, shall we? All right, here we are in game with the character. Let's talk about the skills in detail, shall we? So we got Summon Sabertooth here. Specifically, what we want to get first is Frenzy. This does make Summon Sabertooth take more damage, but it is a massive attack speed boost and massive bleed chance boost, which is great for us. We also want to grab this massive multiplier here, Patient Predator, for 150% more damage, makes our bleeds actually do a very large amount of damage. Then another node that's important is Savage Catalyst. That's the whole point of boosting our Summon Sabertooth's attack speed. If we do this and we, get a lot of attack speed, it can make Summon Sabertooth spam way more attacks than possible. What's really strong about this is the way that it is worded and the way that it works is if it hits like 3 enemies with an attack, it has 3 different chances to proc the Flurry Swipes. Now, it'll only proc it once, but 3 different chances. So in a group of mobs, odds are he will most likely Flurry Swipe on a pack of enemies, which improves your clear significantly. Then we're grabbing like the more damage per chill. This is very strong. We do get our chill from Maelstrom currently. Maelstrom with a billion stacks can actually apply 3 stacks to chill instantly, which gives us a very large amount of damage with Snowstalker. Remember to be on the face of the enemy to get the damage boost for this. Also as well, we grab a +3 from our Apogee, and a +1 currently from our relic to grab our cornered beast, which makes flurry swipes have an extra 100% bleed chance, which is a lot of extra damage. We also get flurry swipes after leaping, but it's not a big deal. Now, to facilitate this, we have to take Ice Tiger. Now, taking Ice Tiger does not affect our damage whatsoever. It doesn't hurt our damage. It doesn't like mess with our damage at all. All it does is make our Sabertooth look cooler and have cooler attacks. That's all it really does. Now, for Warcry, TLDR with the Warcry, we have a few things that matter. Maelstroms, so we can get the healing per second and the chills. And Haste and Frenzy, we have Pull instead of Knockback. We want the Pull, so we can pull enemies closer so that the Flurry Swipes can overlap on them and kill them. We want to be pulling enemies. Now, one thing that I did not do in this current build, but you should do later, is to take Totemic Heart. This will increase the mana cost of Warcry, and you will need a little bit more mana regen to facilitate this. But this will make it so that the Warcry sits there and hits multiple times. It will pull enemies in multiple times and make it much easier for your Ice Tiger to do all the hits, which is very useful. This is something you should do eventually. It also gives you more healing based on Breath of Aetera. You can actually scale this healing with minion healing effectiveness on the tree as well eventually, which is great, right? So yeah, Warcry, very important. Now for Maelstrom here, Maelstrom, we just care about the healing. We care about the haste and the frenzy, right? To make us faster. And of course, beneath the waves so that we get extra stacks. Remember that the Maelstroms are your lifeline. They are all of your healing. You can stack healing effectiveness right now. Like for instance, to give you an idea of how much healing per second that we're getting. Once we have like 18 stacks, right? Let's just say 20 stacks real quick. That is about 120 healing per second. But then if we go to our healing effectiveness, we have 100% ish. So that means that we're getting like 240, we're getting like 240 healing per second, well, per tick or whatever. Yeah, it's like, per tick. And it feels really good when you actually have it set up. And of course, Warcry heals for like 600, but it's doubled once, if we're at low life, which is usually the time, like, usually what happens because we're a Beastmaster, so a lot of our HP is down here, so we actually end up being at low life constantly. Now, swipe, TLDR, you want to be grabbing all the stacks of Aspect of the Panther, mainly because we're going to make it so that Aspect of the Panther also applies to Sabertooth, so it gives us a massive 35% more damage, which is great. The health regen is cool, but it's not necessary. Then eventually we grab Claws of the Bear to give it a cooldown, mainly so that we can grab Primal Resonance. This is like insanely strong, really good. Main reason why this build works is to be able to just walk around and swipe things and cause our dude to swipe more, which is great. And then of course we have Frenzy Totem. Frenzy Totem has a few neat tricks in its tree, mainly refresh companion ability. So if I use my companion ability, use it again, and then refresh again, I get it again. And of course, main a Sabertooth double cast. Now, one of the problem right now is this node is actually bugged. It's not giving us always the double cast technically, but it's like not a big deal to be honest. But this would boost the build's damage significantly if this node actually worked. Then, of course, taking the less mana cost because we need to, scale back mana as much as possible so we can spam our abilities. And of course, Symbol of Selflessness is cool because we don't really care about like the tree for us. So it's like 55% frenzy effect, so they get like an extra 10% attack speed. And of course, the companion elemental and physical resistance is cool. And that's pretty much it for Frenzy Totem. That's pretty much it for the skills. Let's talk about passives that are important. We're a Beastmaster, so just grabbing as much HP as possible in the tree is great. Grabbing the less damage taken while low life is great. Grabbing HP from Druid, going to Shaman to grab HP from it. I'm hoping that you can see a pattern here. Then Beastmaster here, we're grabbing Aspect of the Boar, of course, Aspect of the Shark. We're not stacking Aspect of the Shark 10 times in a row. That is mainly because we don't have the attack speed to facilitate this because we're only casting Swipe every so often. But we can keep 100% uptime on the Aspect of the Shark effect. So if we look at the tree here, Aspect of the Shark normally has 10% attack speed. But with this, we have like 22% attack speed, and that's just an extra 22% attack speed for our minions. Another 32% attack speed. As you can see, there's a pattern here. Another 50% attack speed for our minions. We want as much attack speed as humanly possible. Of course, grabbing the companion stuff. And then that's pretty much it for the passive tree that matters. Now, let's talk about blessings real quick. I did not actually do my due diligence and finish blessings this time around. That's mainly because by the time I got my armor blessing and spirits of fire, all of my other like I was around like 300 corruption, so I just wanted to push it. Now for here, lightning res, void res, here crit avoid, armor percent, and then flat armor, and then you're good to go on blessings. Now for gearing, doublet, this is the first thing you want to get ascendance for or use the COF for. Either way, doublet is really strong early on. Later on, you can actually replace this with a normal chest, technically, if you want to, or you can get a doublet with multiple LP and stack the damage to the moon. Either way, doublet is your endgame chest piece. And it's the first thing that you want. Eventually, you want an apogee, but like early on, it doesn't really matter. This is just more like a end game focused scaling option to get an extra 100% bleed chance while also getting the minion dot affix on the suffix. The minions deal more damage against chilled enemies and stuff like that. Like, you could, in theory, so on the end there it says whenever you expend whenever you use a melee attack, expend a stack of frozen vengeance, grant all your minions frenzy and 24% more damage to chilled enemies. Now it would actually apply to Summon Sabertooth. So what you can do is either you can get an idol that says summon bees every few seconds. Those bees would die, and then you have that stack of frozen vengeance, which then you can use. Or you can use a Terra's Path, which summons the vines, which will die because you don't have that much minion health scaling. That could work as well, Terra's Path, and that would give you the more damage from this specifically for about I think like 8 seconds. Yeah, and that would be the way to get access to the second line. So as you can see, yeah, you just get 24% more damage to chilled enemies, which would be great. Of course, getting the minion dot and all that would be great on this as well. Fizz pen would be good. Mana and mana regen would be good. All those combined would all be good. Then the helmet here, minion bleed chance on hit and minion bleed duration. Those are the main things you want. Then HP is a good helmet base because the HP, but you'd want to like cooldown as well. Amulet here, regen, minion damage, res, good amulet. Shield here, HP, endurance, minion health, healing effectiveness. You do want a decent amount of healing effectiveness. You don't want to skimp out on it because that's your lifeline. Maybe a little bit more healing effectiveness, maybe like an extra 100 to 200% would be great. Rings here, minion damage, health. Like I just use this because it's a double exalted. Eventually you'd want to like roll this into like some other unique and try to land it on it. Then for the other ring, health, minion damage, HP, crit avoid. Obviously I'm going to wear this belt here to cap our crit avoid here, and of course get HP. We're capping our crit avoid here because we didn't grab crit avoid here, but eventually you would cap your crit avoid, which means you could run HP instead here. Then gloves here, strength. Strength is the attribute that governs Summon Sabertooth, so not only would you get percent damage, it also gives him a lot of base health, which makes him tankier, which multiplies all of your minion health. So getting strength everywhere not only gives you a decent amount of armor everywhere, it also, of course, makes your Summon Sabertooth stronger. So you want to be stacking as much strength everywhere as possible where you can. Then boots here. This is like almost the perfect boots. Not only do the effective haste give us a very large amount of movement speed so we can zoom around, it also of course gives us the cooldown recovery speed so we can spam swipe more. HP, movement speed, like perfect pair of boots. Then for a relic, eventually you'd want a +4 to Sabertooth technically, but +2 is fine for now. Mana regen, you need a decent amount of mana regen to make this build work, and then resistances and stuff like that. Then for idols, idols like this, minion bleed chance on hit, minion bleed chance on hit. You just want as much minion bleed chances on hit. Another kind of idol you can go for is minion melee attack speed. That'll make it so that Summon Sabertooth spams flurry swipes faster, and the faster his attack speed, the more flurry swipes he does. So technically scaling his attack speed is a way to go. It's just like they kind of conflict with the minion bleed chance idols, and these are stronger because we're spamming his flurry swipes. So the minion, like 4 of these, and then 4 of these and like 4 HP idols like this would be probably the preferred way to go with this build. I think that would be the way to go to push this build to its limit, would be to run 4 HP idols and 4 bleed chance idols. That would be like the perfect setup. And that's pretty much it for the character today. That's pretty much it for the build. If you haven't already, I'd heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that is the best way of currently supporting me. With all that being said, let's go do something else, shall we?